Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today. For this video we have something a little bit different. So this is my response to Tasting Nitch's kind of chainmail video that she put out, the frequently asked beer questions, and she had a really good idea of putting out 9 different questions that she's very often asked on her channel and using it as a way to link together the BeerTubing community, which to me is really cool because there's lots of us in different parts of the world these days that are kind of reviewing beers for you guys, the viewers. And it's a really cool way for us to kind of link together and tell you a little bit more about ourselves and the channel and stuff like that. So kudos to Nitch for actually getting that out there and having this idea, a really cool one actually. So first off, a thank you of course to the guys who tagged me. So I was tagged by Yolo over in America. He's just starting up actually. He does sneaker reviews as well as beer reviews, so quite an interesting approach from his channel. Make sure you check him out. Craig at Kent Beer Reviews, a good friend of mine, he also tagged me. Thank you to him. And also Peter over at the Clueless Drinker in Germany, he tagged me as well. So make sure you check out all these guys, good friends of mine, and they do some really interesting videos. And I need to think who I'm going to tag myself, because I think most people have actually, that I know, have recorded their responses to this one. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But we'll get stuck into these questions now. So the first question is, how did you get into beer geeking and why beer? So I mean, I was never very much into beer when I went to university and things like that. I mean, I started uni in Aberdeen back in 2009 and I studied chemistry there, and later on it was my kind of scientific interest that got me into beer as well. So cement chemistry for some odd reason was something that I was really interested in, because you had this kind of very central process and you could mess around with it so much, put different ingredients in just to suit the cement for whatever application you wanted to use it. And in brewing is much the same as that. You've got this kind of basic process that you use, and there's so many different variables you can play with. So from the scientific side of things, that was what really kind of interested me in beer. But from the more kind of social aspect of it, I guess, it was my German flatmate Daniel who really got me into beer. And of course, as I've mentioned to you in a few of the Bamberg beer reviews that I've done, he lives over there now, but we're both metalheads, of course. We used to go to the Moorings bar in Aberdeen, Krakatoa as it's now called, and they have loads of different beers there from all across the world. So he really got me into beer. I went over to visit him in Bamberg, and when it comes to food, I've got a very kind of strong flavour palette. I love things to be, you know, just to be blasted with garlic, or, you know, just to have a very strong flavour. And he let me try the Schlenkerla Rauch beers. I think it was the Urbock was the first one that I tried, and I just absolutely loved that. That was the first beer that I really enjoyed, and then from there it just kind of grew. I mean, in the early days in Aberdeen, I started uni in 2009, and then in 2010 you had BrewDog opening their first bar. Now BrewDog of course have kind of gone on to different things and, to be honest, lost their way a little bit, but having a local brewery that could brew all these different styles of beer, the American IPAs, the Scotch ales, the Imperial Stouts, the Porters, all of these different things, to me that was really quite cool. That was what I really liked about BrewDog in the early days, was that they were just trying all of these different things. And the way that I got into kind of beer tubing, if you like, was that I felt, you know, how am I ever going to remember what all these different beers taste like? So I wanted a way to archive them, and that was when I came up with the idea of beer tubing. And when I started that, when I got the idea to do that, I had no idea that there were so many people kind of already doing this on YouTube. So it was quite cool when I started it up. I had people like Rob from Hopzine who kind of got me in, who supported me and got me into this, and then other people, of course, like Craig, Dean, Harry, and all these other people have come along a little bit later than me, and it's a really kind of nice community. As for the question, why beer, you know, it just happened. I don't think there was any particular reason of why beer, you know, since it was probably just the fact I really love like smoky flavours and stuff like this. I always enjoy a kind of peated smoky whiskey. I think it was really just kind of coincidence, to be honest with you, that I got into beer. Now of course with my Japanese girlfriend and stuff, I absolutely love sake. I do enjoy a good whiskey every so often then, and beer was just the first one that really kind of got me into all that, just complete coincidence. So yeah, so number 2, what is your favourite beer? Now yeah, that's a really difficult question. It's like, how many stars are there in the sky? Who knows? If I absolutely had to pick, it would be a very difficult choice between either the Schlenkerla Eiche the oak one for Christmas, or the Urbock. And if it was the Urbock, it would be purely based on nostalgia, because that was the first beer that I tried I really, really loved. But I mean, there's other beers that have come along since then, like notable ones for me, I guess, would be the Amar Batch 1000, there's Stigberg, its amazing haze, you know, there is there's Herr Fredriksson from Amar as well, the Caribbean Rum Stout from Horn Beer. I always loved Hardcore IPA as well. Back in the day, Hardcore IPA was a really, really good beer for me as well. But then, of course, beer styles evolve and your palate changes and stuff like that. One of the best beers I had as well was the Scotch Ale from Bodebrown down in Brazil. That was a really, really cool beer. But if I absolutely had to pick, I'd probably go for the Schlenkerla Urbock, simply because that was the first beer. But that's a very kind of almost loaded question. It's when you've reviewed over 1,000 beers, that's a very, very difficult one to give a kind of definitive answer to. But yeah, Schlenkerla Urbock probably would have to be the one. If you could have one beer forever, what would it be? Now again, that's really difficult, because as I say, the Schlenkerla Urbock probably would have to be my choice of favourite beer, but then again, it's a very strong flavour, and it's the sort of thing you drink it once every so often purely for enjoyment purposes. I don't think I could really answer that question definitively either. I mean, it depends very much on the situation and stuff like that, but it's very I really don't know how to answer that question properly, if I'm quite honest with you, so I think we'll probably have to skip over that. But again, like I said, my favourite beer, probably purely for nostalgia purposes, would be the Schlenkerla Urbock, but I'd be worried that I would get tired of it if that was the only thing I could ever drink again. So question number 4, how can you drink so much and how do you stay so healthy? Well, to be honest with you, I drink very, very little outside of my beer reviews, and that's mainly because I know from my science background, I know that you have to look after your body and things like this. Beer's got a lot of calories in it. You want to, as a male, you know, you want to stick to 2,500 calories a day. As a female, you want to stick to roughly about 2,000. So I try and kind of calorie count with that. I also play football outside of beer reviews and things like that, so that kind of keeps me active. In Lund, of course, I cycle and walk most places, so again, that's a little bit of physical activity. But honestly, unless I'm, you know, going to a beer festival or meeting up with the other BeerTubers, or there's a brewery party, or you know, there's a sake tasting, or if there's some kind of particular reason that's interesting to me like that, I tend to try and stay away from alcohol outside of the reviews. It's only for kind of occasions like that, maybe Christmas and New Year, of course, I'll do things, but I do try and avoid alcohol outside of doing the reviews for you. And for me, the whole thing with drinking beer is about enjoying different things and having and just enjoying the different flavour profiles. When it came to beer, if you could actually replicate the flavours of beer without using the fermentation process and having alcohol in them, I wouldn't care. I don't really have any particular notion that I enjoy being drunk or anything like that. If alcohol was removed from beer and you had the same flavour, I wouldn't care. For me, it's the kind of foodie aspect of it. It's all about the kind of different flavours and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't actually drink that much outside of the reviews, to be honest with you. Pretty much 90% of the alcohol I consume, you guys will actually see me doing it on the YouTube channel. So question number 5, are you an alcoholic? Well, I'm Scottish, I live in the land of the Vikings here in Sweden, so make of that what you will. But as I said a minute ago, honestly, if alcohol wasn't in beer and they could replicate the same flavours, I honestly wouldn't care. It doesn't really bother me. It can be fun, of course, to get a little bit drunk once in a while, but it's not a necessity. I really could, as I say, I don't care if there's alcohol in the beer. For me, beer is all about taste. I like trying different things, and I like, as I mentioned earlier, I like the sort of experimental science side of things, how you can play with lots of different stuff. That's what I really like about beer. It's not about the actual alcohol sort of thing. The social aspect of it, of course, is really good as well. So number 6 is, what is your favourite ingredient? That's a really difficult question, actually, because all ingredients play like a really important part in beer. I mean, water, of course. Being Scottish, you know, I'm really used to a high mineral content in beers and whiskies, and even sakes, of course, in Japan have that as well. So they're all really important. Hops, of course, give you a great diversity of flavour. I really love big fruity IPAs, but at the same time, I really love the other kind of side of things as well, where you've got the malts. I love like a big, nice, sweet malt base. I love peated malts as well. As I mentioned, I love, you know, peated whiskies and Rauch beers and all of this sort of thing. I really, really love that. And of course you can add some interesting things as well. Harry in his FABQ, he was talking about how oats and lactose, again, that's a very difficult question for me. If I had to pick one particular thing, pardon me again, it probably would be Rauch malts. Because again, that's where my my love of beer started. But my whole love affair with beer is the fact that you have this kind of central process and you can muck around with it so much and get such a diversity of flavour. And that probably goes back to the first question of why beer. Beer just has such a wide scope of flavours in comparison to like whiskey and sake and things like that. That's one of the other attractions to beer. But if I had to pick, I think probably the Bamberg Rauch malts or some of the peated Scotch malts that we have over back home as well. So yeah, that's an interesting question actually. So yeah. So number 7 is, do you brew? I've actually just started home brewing. You might have seen me posting a little thing about that on the channel Facebook page. I've actually just started home brewing with my landlord here, and we're just going to experiment with things. We're trying to get used to the equipment at the moment. We've brewed our first beer, which was supposed to be an IPA. To me, when we tasted it, we've just put it in the bottles to let it mature for a little bit. To me, it actually came across as more of a kind of American hopped German Helles beer actually, which was quite interesting. So that's one thing I guess that I'm quite interested in. As I say, I want to play with the chemistry of it. I've really just been more into tasting beer, but I will be playing around with home brewing over the next little while, and maybe I can even make some beer videos with that. But I've got some good ideas of how to play with different recipes that we've got in the book, so we'll see how that goes. What was your first beer? Number 8. I honestly don't know. I remember being in a pub that we used to go to back home in Clackmannanshire called the Cross Keys, and my dad ordered this thing, I believe it was called Millennium Ale or something like that, back in the year 2000. So I must have been, yeah, like 9 or 10 years old when I had my first sip of beer. And I stole my dad's beer glass and just had a sip of this thing, and I was just like, oh, that's fucking horrible, you know, how can you drink this? And it was one of these kind of pool cast beers. I guess it was one of these kind of English real ale beers, and I just thought it was horrible. So that was probably my very first beer that I got into. As for the first ones that I tried with Daniel, I'm really not quite sure, but the first beer, as I mentioned, that I enjoyed, I'm pretty sure it was one of the Schlenker ones definitely, and I think it was the Urbock beer, the Doppelbock version of that. So first beer I ever tried was a Millennium Ale. I'm not sure who produced that, of course, but the first beer that I really liked was the Schlenker Urbock. So the final question in this one is, who in the beer world do you look up to? And that's an interesting one as well. I mean, when I first got into the whole beer scene, I actually met Stuart Bowman, who was the original kind of brewmaster at Brewdog a couple of times in the bar in Aberdeen. He was a lovely guy. I really, really enjoyed talking to him. He, of course, has left Brewdog since then, as far as I know, and you know that might explain a few things about the beer coming out of Brewdog these days. But he was a lovely guy and somebody that I really looked up to in the early days. But other than that, you know, really, I've got a lot of respect for my fellow BeerTubers. There's a lot of guys across the world who offer their own perspective on beers. You know, there's Craig at Kent Beer Reviews. He's, you know, one of the things I really like about his channel, he's a very down-to-earth guy. He's got a lot of Portuguese beer reviews that he does because his wife's Portuguese. Dean at Dean's Beer Reviews, again, he's somebody I really quite like watching his videos. He gets straight into it, just kind of tastes the beer, says what he thinks of it. I like that as well. Harry, of course, Bluenose Beer Reviews, he's a good friend of mine too. He does that. Peter at the Clueless Drinker, I really enjoy his videos as well. He always gives me a bit of a smile just because he seems like a very sort of chilled out guy, and I just like the way that he sort of approaches his videos. There's Rob at Hopzine as well. He was one of the first ones that I kind of started communicating with in the beer tubing community, and he's a very, very knowledgeable guy, does his research and all of this sort of thing, and he gave me a little bit of support in the early days and things like that, which was quite cool. And unfortunately he offered me to, he was getting into me and telling me to do collaborations and things with him. Because of where I was in my studies in the early days, I wasn't able to involve myself in the beer tubing community as much as I would have liked back then. But Rob was one that really got in touch with me very early on. And of course there's other guys that have come in since then. Of course Dean Peter, Harry, Craig, all of these guys are a little bit newer than I am on the scene. And I've met other guys. I mean, there's Casey and Eric over at Sotogami Akihabeera as well. I really enjoy their videos. They take a different approach from me. They do quite a little bit of editing and things and use graphics and stuff. I really like how their videos come across as well. There's also my new friend Wolfgang over at Katzenfett in Austria as well. He found my videos, I think, through when I did one of the BeerVog beers as well. He was really quite, he got into that and messaged me, and he does his beer reviews in German, and I quite like doing that to keep up my sort of German ear. I really enjoy his videos, and it's good because I learn my German from it, and I learn a little bit about beer from him as well. He seems to be like a very nice chap too. But there's loads of people. I mean, there's Rod over in America as well. There's a couple of other guys, but mainly I'm kind of involved with the UK guys a little bit more, and some of the other people further afield too. But really, it's my fellow BeerTubers, and we've got a very nice community where everyone gets on. I mean, if I think about it, you know, I probably never, if it hadn't been for doing beer tubing and stuff, I never would have met guys like Craig, Harry, Dean, Wolfgang, you know, and Peter, all of these people. If it hadn't been for this whole beer tubing thing, there's pretty much no chance I would have met these guys, and they're all very nice, and I think that's for me, that's what makes this whole kind of beer tubing thing worthwhile. It's just meeting people that are from completely different professions and all this sorts of thing, but we can chat about beer. We've all got this kind of common interest, and I think we all quite enjoy listening to each other's perspectives on the world and stuff like that as well. So that's really what a positive aspect about beer tubing is. So I respect all of my kind of fellow beer tubers as well, and there's always new people. As I mentioned, Yolo over in America is a very new guy on the scene too. So yeah, and that's what makes it for me, is just the communication with fellow beer lovers and stuff like that. And of course the guys who subscribe to the channel, I mean, I get a lot of interest in beer suggestions. You learn a lot from your subscribers as well on YouTube, which is really what makes it as well. It's really cool. I like replying to people's comments and doing all this sort of thing. I mean, it's to talk about beer and have that social aspect of it. For me, that's what it's all about. So yeah, that's my frequently asked beer questions. One of the other things I actually wanted to add to this is, because I've been asked this a number of times, is one of the other questions would be, what are your favourite beer styles? And again, that for me is a very difficult question. I love Rauch beers, absolutely love smoked beers. Red IPAs are one that I really enjoy. I really got into red IPAs when I was in New Zealand, and I absolutely love the sort of fruity, the distinctive fruity character that New Zealand hops have. Nelson Sauvin is probably one of my favourite hops, with that kind of white grapey character that has. But I love Scotch ales as well. I love trying different Scotch ales from across the world. That, of course, is probably just because of my sort of Scottish background. But that's one thing I really love, is just trying those from different places. I love the German Helles beer as well. For when I was in Germany, I enjoyed the Helles. I like Doppelbox as well. I tried a lot of good Doppelbox over there. I'm trying to think if I miss anything. I mean, obviously I enjoy a really nice Imperial Stout and stuff like that as well. There's so many good beer styles out there, and I think you have to go into things open-minded and just see what you get. I always say it takes you a couple of tries to really get into a beer style. I never used to like sour beers and wild ales and stuff like that, but now I can kind of properly appreciate them, like Berliner Weisses. There's a lot of breweries playing around with Berliner Weisses these days, and do a lot of different things. So I think that was one thing that was maybe missing a little bit from the FABQs, was your favourite beer styles and kind of why you got into them. But yeah, I mean, this was a really cool idea. Once again, kudos to Nitch for coming up with this one, and yeah, I'm trying to think who I should tag. So I reckon Wolfgang over at Katzenfett, he's pretty new to the whole beer tubing game. I'll tag him. He does most of his reviews in German, of course, but I think he'll be able to do this one in English. I don't think there'll be any problem with that. I'll also tag Casey and Eric, my friends in Tokyo at Sotogami Akihabeera. It'd be cool to hear from them. They might take a little bit to post the video, of course. And one of my fellow Scottish beer tubers, actually, Brian Sheriff, Ginger's Beer Reviews, and it'd be quite cool to hear from him too. I can't think of if there's anybody else. I'm not sure if any of the Australian beer tubers, like Swilling Grog. It'd be quite cool to hear from Swilling Grog as well. I watched some of his videos. And yeah, so I guess that's my 4 people that I'll tag. I can't think of anybody else. It should be 5 that I tag, of course. But yeah, it's been really cool to do this one for you. Once again, thank you to Nitch for the idea. Really quite cool and interesting idea, and it's been cool to kind of think about this a little bit and put the video out for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, of course, do get in touch through whatever social media you want. You can comment below or message me through the Facebook or whatever you want. But as I always say, great to hear from you guys. Thank you for your support of the channel. And yeah, I'll see you soon with more beer reviews. Until the next time, Slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out the links to all my other fellow beer tubers in the description below. Cheers.